Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. And yes, we're back in the pub. The guys are here, Pato and Chris, to answer your questions. The first comes from Bushan Mahal. What is the worst bit of business from the transfer window?
Ooh.
Tough one. Pato, who are you going for?
Ooh, well, oh God, there are so many here.
I mean, there's two or three that I feel like you're going to go for.
I feel like you know where I'm going here. Jermaine Defoe to Bournemouth.
Ooh.
Sigurdsson was the other one I was thinking of for you, but
Like, obviously went on a free, so that's fine. But big wages. They're apparently going to commit 20 million quid to him.
What?
Over the next 3 years.
How? What's he on? 100 plus K?
Well, the rumours have varied between 60 and 130
That's
K for
insane.
his wages. But obviously there'll be a signing on bonus as well. Like, there's loads of extra money that we don't really know about. But this is a guy who's 35. When his contract ends, he will be 38. Last season, he got 10 non-penalty goals. You can get anyone to take your penalties. So these are the goals he actually managed to find chances and finish.
Yeah.
Got 10. Divock Origi got 7. Slimani, I think, got 7. Etienne Capoue got 7. So these are guys who are within the range of Jermaine Defoe. And I don't think that you'd give them.
It's not very
20
progressive, is
mil
it? It's not
over
very
3
progressive
years.
either.
But that's my issue with Eddie Howe. Like, I think Eddie Howe's an okay coach. I'd be quite intrigued to see what he does with a better squad, but I feel like I say that every year, and every year he builds a slightly worse, slightly more boring squad. I mean, look, I like Nathan Ake on a permanent deal, that's good, but they looked like they were going to be ambitious a couple of years ago, and they brought in Max Gradel, and he's not played. Admittedly, he got injured. He hasn't played, and now he's left the club. And at some point, Eddie Howe is going to need to expand his horizons and not just pick players, you know, whose names he knows how to spell because they're English.
Oh, that is so hard.
That's my issue.
It stops Josh King performing, I think. That's the
Smith,
worst thing about it.
Daniels,
I
Cook,
actually think Josh King has a really high ceiling. He was really good at United before we sold him. And then he performed well at Blackburn. And I think now, last season, 16 goals, an impressive tally. Was that first season in the Premier League as well for Josh King?
It was quite high. I mean, I don't know if he'd get quite that many again, but he's a big guy. He can also dribble.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got players like Benicofobia and stuff. I'm really not sure that the front line is that weak. I'd say the supply line to the strikers is more of a problem.
he was excellent against Manchester City in the opening game of the season.
Just
I
signed a
think he
new
completed
4 or 5
the
year deal as well, I think,
most
old
dribbles
Josh
in the
King.
game. Should have
Nuisance.
scored, shouldn't he hit the post, was unlucky with that, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure about the central midfield options. I think Wilshere on loan last season was didn't quite work out as well as they'd hoped it would, and now they are still struggling a little bit in that area. But I don't know whether that's the worst bit of business. Obviously, we've talked enough about Gylfi Sigurdsson. What about Paulinho? Surely Paulinho is in with a shout to Barcelona. 40 million euros.
Expensive.
My biggest issue with this is that they got run up by a Chinese club and were forced to play his buyout clause. Surely there's better players on the market than Paulinho.
At 40
It's
mil.
the least progressive move.
Well, I don't think the fee is reflective of the player they're receiving. I think the fee is to pay for other shady, underhand things behind the scenes, apparently.
Apparently.
In inverted commas.
Allegedly.
But
Don't sue us.
if he can maintain the form he's been displaying for the national team, we saw him score a hat-trick against Uruguay. Tite's made him look like a complete new player in that setup. Then he might not be a half bad acquisition, especially if Andre Gomes leaves for Spurs, which could also be bad business.
But we haven't seen whether that's happened yet because we're shooting this on
Yeah.
a Thursday. It might not have happened. But my bigger issue is it just stops all of that development, that youth system. Like I'm listening to quotes from Sergi Samper saying that he doesn't want to go back to Barcelona now.
Yeah, but Sergio
At
Samper
the end
isn't
of his
good
loan.
enough for Barcelona. I mean, I'd say, I see what you mean from the point of view. I think Rafinha is
Rafinha's the
better
big
than
one,
Paulinho now.
Yeah.
Like, definitely. But I don't know. You look at them and you think like, they've still got the makings of a good side there. I mean, like they've still got obviously Messi and Suarez, but then Ousmane Dembele is going to be a world beater.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Rafinha is still very good. Nelson Semedo is an excellent acquisition at right back. They still need to plan for Jordi Alba's departure, but Umtiti as well. Ter Stegen's still quite young.
Interesting.
There's the core of a good team there, plus a couple of incredible talents. So
Yeah. All right.
Well,
So maybe not Paulinho.
how's
Hamster.
this for a slice
Go on.
of fried shit housery? Apparently, if Riyad Mahrez leaves Leicester, of which we've heard whispers of him having a medical in London, don't know if that's for a London club, this morning, which is on a Thursday. If he was to leave Leicester, the Algerian, then Craig Shakespeare has lined up £27 million Andros Townsend as his replacement. The most Brexit solution for the Algerian in
Andros,
the
he's
summer
had so
transfer
many
window.
clubs, Andros Townsend.
He's 26.
It's generous to call him a solution.
He's
like,
26 and he's been at 12 clubs.
It's unbelievable.
And he's flattered to deceive at every single club. He looks okay on Match of the Day every now and then. But I actually think in this transfer window, bigger clubs, and particularly clubs in the Premier League, are doing better business than ever. We look at Bayern Munich with James Rodriguez. We look at AC Milan with Franck Kessié, Andre Silva from FC Porto.
Yeah.
And even in the Premier League, as I say, Davy Klaassen going to Everton.
Yeah, it's not too
Everton
bad,
picking up Ajax's captain.
Sandro to Everton as well.
Yeah, I think there's a land grab for talent at the moment, and the Premier League are really, it's a rat race in the Premier League, isn't there, to hoover all of that up, maybe to other leagues' detriment. Maybe not La Liga and Serie A, but particularly the Dutch league, the Portuguese
agreed.
league. But I think there's been some really good business conducted in this transfer window. What do you make of it?
Good window. It's been an exciting window. Best deadline day for ages. Last few deadline days have been absolute rubbish. This one, well, we're shooting this at now 11:40 on a Thursday on deadline day, and it's already exciting. We don't know whether Sanchez is gone.
This all stems back to Neymar though. Like, I mean, the transfer window was kind of bumbling along, and we were talking about 120 million euros from Mbappe, and that seemed like insane money. And then the Neymar deal happened, and everybody's price went up by kind of 40 to 50%. And so now, like Thomas Lemar, we were looking before at kind of like 40 to 45 million pounds. Now there's talk that Monaco won't accept less than 100 million euros.
Well,
for
apparently
him.
Liverpool have bid 70, and FSG and Liverpool are doing bits, aren't they, in this transfer window? Securing the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain, snapping him up from under Chelsea's noses. Yeah. It's almost as if the Reds actually have a vision now, signing Naby Keita. I mean, they have to wait a year to see their record signing.
It's interesting.
Fine, brilliant transfer. Really going to bolster that midfield. And the Ox, I think, if he can play right back, he can play centre mid. He gives them options, and he fits in well to Jurgen Klopp's high pressing system. Yeah. Good, energetic young player.
Yeah, exciting. But let's go back to the original question. What do you guys at home think is the worst bit of business from this window? Let us know your thoughts are in the comments below. Next question then comes from Ryan Jacob. Which team will be the surprise package in the Premier League this year? # Sunday Vibes. I'll kick it off. Watford. I think, Patter, you might say the same. I think they've got an exceptional coach, probably moving on to bigger and better things over the next few seasons, Marco Silva. And I think some of the business they've conducted over the summer has been both cheap and strong. I think the likes of Chalobah for £7 million is an extraordinary bit of business. Like, he is,
won't go as far as extraordinary.
English central midfield. He should be upwards of £20 million comfortably. Comfortably. When you're looking at Johnny Evans, 29, Irish, moving for, 28, £30 million?
Yeah, I see your point.
Johnny Evans has a wealth of experience, though.
Pickford moving for £30 million.
Played at a top club.
I do see your point.
He's a comfortable £20 million plus player. If he wasn't playing at Chelsea, he would be moving for more. Chelsea had to
Ake's probably
if he was playing anywhere.
Ake's a decent comparison.
Yeah, you look at
Ake went
for
22.
22. Yeah, it's absolute madness that he's gone for £7 million. I think that Cleverley was actually quite a smart little pick-up for £5 million off Everton. Not the best, but good little squad player rotation. They've got Richarlison up front, they've got Gray up front, they've got Deeney up front, they've got Kaka up front. Very strong forward line.
Yeah, they've got players there who can bully the opposition.
Big time.
Not exactly technically sound, the likes of Andre Gray and Kaka, but we saw them against Liverpool causing defences real problems from set pieces.
And Richarlison looks exciting. I mean, he had 6 shots on his debut. I think they were all inside the box. He also created 4 chances. This is a kid. You know, they've also got Adalberto Peñaranda, who I think is still out on loan, who's a really exciting young forward. But basically, there's no reason they can't be like, say, Villarreal. You know, you look at Villarreal in La Liga, and they just have a coherent defensive system. You know, they sit deep, they funnel teams into less dangerous areas of the pitch, and then they kind of pounce on them. And when they stood up to Liverpool, like earlier in the season.
Who was the lad who got injured against Liverpool? Was it Pereira?
Pereira.
Very good player.
Yeah, I was just about to say he looked exceptional in his first game. Obviously signed him from Juventus. That was a bit of an odd one, wasn't it? That there wasn't as many teams in for him as there probably should have been.
And you know Marco Silva's home record speaks for itself, doesn't it? I think Marco Silva's got one of the best home records in the entirety of Europe. Even his home record at Hull was absolutely off the charts last season for a team that was getting relegated. So
he had 7 or 8 games at home.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he'll do really well with Watford this year. How long they can actually hold on to him for remains to be seen. I also think Stoke. Anything about Stoke, lads? You're not convinced?
They've made a couple of good signings, haven't they? Zuma at the back. Who else did they sign?
Wimmer at the back.
Kevin Wimmer, for 14, 15 million, I
Wimmer,
think.
Zuma, Hesse's coming.
They look solid, but I think they're struggling for end product. Apparently, they might be signing Vincent Janssen. Obviously, he didn't have his best season in front of goal in his debut season for Spurs. Peter Crouch chips in every now and then, doesn't he?
Well, they bought Hesse in for that
the
reason,
legend is John Walters has departed for West
to
Brom.
Burnley.
Burnley, sorry. Thinking of Crouch earlier.
I'm thinking, though, that he's surely expecting 10 to 15 goals out of Hesse.
He's 10, sure.
He has to be getting
15
that sort of
would be a
number.
lot. 15 would be a lot. I mean,
15 Giroud numbers, isn't it?
Hughes isn't a very good manager. I mean, that's their problem. That
You don't like him, do you? You really don't like Hughes.
Well, when you look at the managerial talent around the rest of mid-table, I think that Hughes is quite a lot weaker than, say, Marco Silva, as we've talked about, Mauricio Pellegrino, like even Ronald Koeman.
Why is that? Because he did a good job at Blackburn, at Fulham.
Did he?
Even at international level, he had a really good solitary season for Fulham, didn't he? Where did they finish in that season? I think it was mid-table.
I've never really been impressed by his sides. I mean, like, the thing is, like, a bad manager once in a while will have a great season. Like, look at Alan Pardew when his Newcastle team finished 5th. I just think that he, at the moment, like, doesn't seem to know why he's playing in a particular system. He's just decided this is the system that everyone's using at the moment. I'm going to go through at the back. I'll play Mame Biram Diouf as a right wing back. I think that these decisions don't really make sense.
That is a strange one. Biram Diouf as a right wing back is an odd move.
His transfers seem a bit scattergun as well, don't they?
Yeah,
I feel
big
like
time.
He's just...
He's seen Hesse as a name and just gone, yeah, I'm getting Hesse in the door.
Yeah, every time a big name is available, they sort of seem to be in for them.
Any others that you think could be surprises this season?
I think Leicester will be a lot safer than last season.
Harry Maguire looks good.
Harry Maguire looks like a really good acquisition. Again, conducted himself very well against Manchester United. They didn't look very solid against Arsenal either, conceding 4. But I think there's a basis for a very sound mid-table team there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Riyad Mahrez would be a huge loss, even against Manchester United. He was completing the most dribbles on the pitch.
Yeah.
Demarai Gray should have put him through for a fairly easy one-on-one chance. They're losing an exceptional creator in him, and replacing him with Andros Townsend would be a step back, yes. I think Swansea will probably do better than last season under Paul Clement, especially if he calls in that Renato Sanchez favour that appears to be happening, which is absolutely mind-boggling.
Awesome.
But
losing Llorente though, feels
losing
like that
Llorente,
could be a little bit of a hit.
I mean, he quietly got 15 goals last season, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
Sure,
I got battered for saying he was their most influential player last season.
But they're going to have a much better midfield now. I think that they'll be able to construct play better and they'll concede fewer. You know, he's basically bought a whole new midfield.
It is a lot of pressure on Tammy though.
Well, yeah, of course it is. But Tammy Abraham, you'd have thought, would be ready for it. And you know, that midfield, like I say, in this year they've brought in Carroll, Klukas, Mesa, and now possibly Renato Sanchez.
Yeah.
And that's really going to change the shape of that midfield. That'll help a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think Swansea will probably just about avoid the drop though. I'm not overly sure about their defence.
I think if Leicester lose Mahrez, I'm really worried about their creativity. They've got no one who can create anything in that team then.
Given the start Huddersfield have made as well, I think Aaron Moy could maybe be the surprise, the standout player in the lower half of the Premier League. But Palace, I mean, in terms of... we can count surprise in a negative sense as well as a positive one, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Boer's tenure or his stewardship over Palace is going to be surprisingly bad.
And surprisingly short. Actually, maybe unsurprisingly short. Would he get 14 games?
Which may be unfair, but...
If he gets 14 games at Palace, I'll be very surprised.
We haven't even talked about whether West Ham are going to go down, which is, at the moment, looking like quite an interesting little side bet if anybody wants to have a flutter.
I don't think they'll go down. I think they'll have a little flutter with relegation. Bilic will be out the door and then they'll bring someone in and maybe just stay with the ship. You know what happened? Get your money on Sam Allardyce to West Ham.
Oh, God.
Seriously, get your money on Sam Allardyce to West Ham.
I just heard it first. There you go.
That's a great fucking line to end this debate
on. End it.
End it.
Which club will have the most success in Europe this season? Now, are we counting this as winning the Champions League, or are we just saying somebody who is going to perform really well?
Ooh, interesting.
Interesting one. What about, let's say who's going to win the Champions League first. Let's have a little prediction.
Okay, so one of 4 clubs. Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Juventus.
You think Barcelona are in there with a shout? I think PSG have now overtaken Barcelona in that 4th spot.
Ooh. It's hard to... There's still this thing with me and PSG where because they've not quite got the pedigree, I never really wholeheartedly backed them. Admittedly, Mbappe and Neymar helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And they've been knocking on the door the last few years. So yeah, I think if I'm going to throw a fifth team in there, PSG is a good shout. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I might go a little bit left field just to be a bit more interesting. Like, I think if Diego Costa goes to Atleti in January and he's eligible to play in the Champions League, I think they could be a threat to anyone.
No, I
They
don't.
could be a threat to anyone. A front line, they've never had a pair like that up front, like Diego Costa and Antoine Griezmann.
I still think they're missing something. I don't know. They just maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like they've gone backwards in the last 2 years a little bit. Atletico Madrid, and now they're a little bit further away from a Champions League.
They got over that disappointing draw with Girona in the first week of La Liga, didn't they, by smashing Las Palmas away from home.
Yeah.
And if the likes of Yannick Ferreira Carrasco can maintain the form he sort of flirted with at the start of last season, just touch your leg, lovely. Yeah. Then they'll fare a lot better. Tell you what, Atalanta are making their debut campaign
in
Europe this season, yeah. And I read some really interesting stuff on them. They completely overhauled their youth setup in 1991. And I think out of 303, all but 40 of those players were born in Italy.
Wow,
and they're producing the likes of, Frank Kessié, Caldara, who signed for AC, was it?
Yeah.
Juve.
Oh, Juve, sorry. And who else was
went
it?
to AC.
And Gagliardini, who is playing for Inter Milan. So if they can produce a few more gems, they might be well worth a watch this season.
What about
no
Liverpool?
doubt they'll shift those players on.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Juventus, I think, for the Champions League for me this year.
To actually win it?
Yeah, I think Juventus' squad is extraordinary this season. I know that they've lost Bonucci, but I think
signed Herveders, didn't they, on loan?
Not
a bad
their
move.
front line
Similar
is
to
I
Benatia.
think
very interesting.
Dybala, a year older, a year wiser as well, is a different prospect on that
Bernardeschi,
Champions League
Costa.
stage. Douglas Costa coming into the
Matuidi
side,
as well.
can't underrate that. Yeah, I mean Matuidi in that plug-in hole where Khedira's injuries really hurt Juventus last season, I think is an exceptional signing. It's probably gone under the radar as one of the best signings of the whole window, I'd say, Matuidi for £18 million.
Especially when Danny Drinkwater was costing twice that.
It's incredible. But yeah, there's no English clubs we mentioned at all.
See,
five in the Champions League.
Not to win it, but I think that Liverpool could go quite far. Like, Liverpool have got enough firepower to get out of the group, and when they're playing big clubs in the latter stages, what they've got a problem with at the moment is they don't really have great possession midfielders, and by buying Oxlade-Chamberlain, they're carrying that on. They're buying kind of counter-attacking ones. That will really help in the latter stages of the Champions League. You can often, even against teams like Bayern Munich or whatever, you see how vulnerable they are to the counter-attack now, and I think that Liverpool could absolutely cut through.
Klopp has a great record against big teams as well.
They're so good. Because if they can soak up a little bit of pressure and hit on the break, they will batter some teams, even in Europe, because there's just so much speed in that front line.
And Salah brings a bit more tactical flexibility, doesn't it? He doesn't mind running down the middle, whereas before you had Firmino in a bit of a reserve role, Sadio Mane out on the wing. His pace is absolutely devastating, Mo Salah.
I mean, for me, Man United, Man City and Liverpool should all be top in their groups. They should be
Man
top
United
in
have
their
got a
groups.
Europa League group. Sick.
Celtic.
Our group is tougher than you. We've got
again.
a former Champions League winner in our Europa League group in Red Star Belgrade.
I think
that's a great away day.
I think that Tottenham have got a hard group. Dortmund and Real Madrid.
You're going out on a limb and saying that.
I don't think you're alone there.
I think, but what I will say is, I think Tottenham could do really well in the Europa League if they finish third in that group. I know they didn't focus on.
Yeah.
They weren't in it last year, were they? Or were they?
No, because they were.
Did they drop into it?
No, I think they came fourth. I think they came bottom. I think they only got a point.
Jesus, if they came bottom. But anyway, that aside, I think they could do really well in the Europa League.
I'd love to get Tottenham in the Europa League. Listen, we'll batter Anderlecht home and away.
You won't batter Anderlecht away.
Get resoundingly pumped by PSG and I actually think we could do a job on either one of them at home. Fuck them. And get Tottenham in the Europa League. Imagine Tottenham and Arsenal in the later stages of the Europa League.
Tottenham
That'd
batter
be
Arsenal
tasty.
in the Europa League final.
How do you think you're going to do in the Europa League?
I don't give a shit. I don't
Really?
care. I haven't even thought about it.
You're going to jack it in straight away?
No, before I need to learn about it because basically at the beginning of the summer I was like, right, if we fill all these squad holes and ignore the Europa League, then we can have our best shot at trying to get back in the top four. And now I'm like, sack off the Prem, try and win the Europa League. But the problem is it's just such a gamble to do that, but it's genuinely our best shot.
Mourinho put all his cards on the table.
But only in the latter stages. He was able to rely on his team to get through to like the quarters.
Yeah.
So who else is in Manchester United's group?
Manchester United have trips to CSKA Moscow,
Yeah.
which actually isn't as bad as people make out.
No, it's actually pretty. It's not too bad a journey.
No, Benfica.
They don't even have to do beer anymore.
CSKA Moscow, Benfica.
Rubbish.
And
You've bought all
who
their
is the
players.
last one?
Someone proper left.
Can't remember who the last one is.
Yeah, but Benfica's a decent away day. You planning on any away trips, either of you?
No.
This campaign?
No,
Fuck no.
no.
Absolutely not.
I never want to watch
15
Arsenal play
videos
again.
a week.
Yeah, exactly. But who do you guys think is going to win the Champions League anyway? We're rambling on for about 10 minutes otherwise. Let us know what you think. In the poll above, we haven't done a poll yet, may as well chuck a poll in.
Oh, why not?
Yeah, why not? Have a little vote. So that's all we've got time for on this episode of Sunday Vibes. If you want to get your question answered next week, use the hashtag Sunday Vibes in the comments below. Got there eventually. Cheers, lads, for joining me. Thanks very much for your questions at home, and we'll catch you later.
Fancy game of UK Trivia Junior, lads?
No.
UK trivia, my favourite trivia.
Brexit trivia.